January 7, 2021. Druidic rituals for the beginning of the year. I bought dried limewood blossoms for incense today, and I have an inexplicable craving for sea buckthorn. Might that be your influence? And if it is, then it makes my life more colorful, which is something I can really use right now in the dead of winter. Don't worry, soon you'll be going out more, no matter what the weather. It would be even nicer if the weather would just get better. Don't push your luck. Well, it was worth a try, I guess. You've already learned that you actually need the cold. So the mosquitoes die off, the bark beetles die off, and the pine trees sprout properly. It's not my fault you guys haven't planted anything else in the last few decades. I gave you beautiful, useful trees, and a great variety of them. You created the clearly recognizable monocultures all by yourselves. So don't wish for 20 degrees Celsius and lots of sun from me, which I can't grant anyway. You would groan in summer at the latest. That is the notorious short-sightedness of man. Side note, a song from London Grammar begins playing. I like her northern voice. Northern voice? That describes the singer perfectly. If she practiced some more, she could do kulning perfectly, that distinctive herd call of Scandinavian women. It's in her blood. The Anglo-Saxons are very musical, always have been, and the Celts too. You would have to hear it to understand it. I know what you mean. When I discovered the band Heilung, I had such a feeling. It would be so exciting to know what spirits these musicians are influenced by. Excuse me? The woman wears antlers on the stage and she makes music with human bones. So, who do you think is directing her? You? I thought you don't give impulses anymore. I said I rarely do. And depending on the perspective, it's not me either, it's portions of me. My children, you could say. And the aspect you know as Jormungandr is also mixing in vigorously here. Can I ask you something? Certainly. Yesterday was January the 6th, which is the last day of the 12 Holy Nights, the timeless time between the years. Christians celebrate Epiphany on that day, as you know. One of the many, many festivals that mean nothing to me and whose meaning has passed by me up until now. But can you tell me about its roots? Can you show me meaningful pagan things I could do for myself and my house for this festivity? With pleasure. The Christians, of course, poached on old rites here, as they always did. I mean, going from house to house and drawing on door frames with chalk, that's what witches do. First, they put in their oh-so-sacred book a story of doors being marked and children being stolen from them, and then you are supposed to welcome the door painters to your house every winter. Oh, please. The word for this is hypocrisy. Sometimes this way, sometimes that way, as it suits the priest at the moment. I can see we're on the same page here. So let's wipe off this useless Christian crust and devote ourselves to the origins. On January 6th, the year begins. Why? Because the first days still belong to the Rauhnächte, as we said, the timeless time between the years. On this actual first day of the year, which many cultures even still name as the New Year's Day, a group of trained people comes to you and renews blessings on you and your home. They say, "Enter and bring in happiness," literally. Now, the unsuspecting children you send disguised from house to house are kind and well-meaning and all that, but unfortunately they are not trained in the art of ritual. They bring no incense, no sage, and not even the theoretically promised myrrh. The only thing they have is chalk. And here's the only part that actually has any power left. Along with your will to believe, of course, that this blessing will help you in any way. Chalk, like coal, comes from the earth and thus symbolizes the element of earth. Smoke is fire and air in perfect unity. Not to burn incense at the beginning of the year used to be heresy, if that word had existed in Celtic tradition in such a way. It was an affront to gods like me. And by the way, it makes an awful lot of sense to smoke out your roof at least once a year, because it was made of withered plant material that vermin love to nest in. But I digress. In many corners of your present territory, it was the custom for the family living there to contribute the element of water. Most did this gladly in the form of tea, because, after all, the ritual leaders made the effort for you, and they trudged through the cold. If time permitted, it was absolutely advisable to invite the Druids into the warmth when the blessing was pronounced. It strengthened the tribal bond, and the Druid quite physically. What he then wrote onto your house was secondary to that. He did not even have to write real words. A symbol, or a seal, or a drawing of me also did the trick. All these steps together make a lot of sense, don't you think? Scaring away vermin, visiting all the tribe members and checking in on them, feeding the Druid in the lean winter times, breaking the winter silence with a conversation and discussing the grievances and aches of man and cattle. Only a complete idiot would refuse that. There's just no sense in any of this anymore. And not because you get medicine and food in the supermarket, but mainly because you lack the nationwide supply of herbalists and knowers of druids. Therefore, it is only logical that most people smile at today's custom and do not give the 3 little kids a place in or before their house anymore. The way you celebrate the ritual, it has no sense at all anymore. Thank you so much. That was a really brilliant explanation. Let's talk more about that and what we can really do ourselves at the beginning of the year. Gladly. We'll get you and your house ready for this revival of the old times. Don't you worry. January 8. The fire extinguisher. I get the feeling that you spirits sent me a very clear sign today with that small fire on my altar. And I hope I reacted correctly by buying 2 small fire extinguishers right away. One for my altar and one for my kitchen. It turned out that although there is a huge fire extinguisher in the basement right next to my office, it had expired almost 10 years ago, and it's probably no longer usable. It probably wouldn't have helped me in a real emergency anyway. Well advised is the one who accepts signs, right? Will I need it then, the extinguisher? It is a universal paradox that you no longer need the security once you buy or acquire it. You put it very nicely today when you talk to one of your friends. That's right. I told her that it's a bit like homework sitting on a desk. They stay there until you have completed them, until you have worked through them, learned your lesson, and put them aside, mentally and physically. Of course, if the pile of homeworks keep growing, it will almost certainly cause an avalanche at some point. Exactly. The fact that you bought the fire extinguisher proves that you did your homework promptly and quite carefully. Nobody asks you to spontaneously invest thousands of euros. Balance in all things is the key. As always. The lesson is done now. It's Murphy's Law that you won't need it immediately and you might never need it, which is especially nice because a tool like this you never actually wish to use. In this way, Murphy's Law has very positive sides that you rarely see. And coming back to your friend, she also said something very nice, I think. Yes, we talk a lot about the law of attraction and my ongoing training to become a channel and a witch, and she then said that she wanted to be my apprentice. That was great. Just like my mom, who is a teacher, I love passing on knowledge. Do you see how perfect your parents are for you? How their preferences, skills, etc. rubbed off on you and shaped you? Definitely. I can see that my whole family has evolved spiritually in amazing ways. I love seeing that. As weird as this pandemic was, and still is, you do see an evolution. Or maybe just because of it. Many of you say that no voice should be missing. Not that of the former forester who fascinated you a few days ago, not that of the spirit medium or herbalist or witch, not that of the churchman who stood up for refugees and got them out of the water with a church-owned ship. You know, Jesus would have spontaneously become a captain on a Mediterranean rescue ship today. Your official national religion likes to forget that. The captains of these ships have also been given a voice now, space to represent their essence and their views. And this is indeed true. Each of these voices, each of your voices is necessary for your song. It's basically a planetary choir. Your spirit friend named White said to you that you are the entertainment planet. But not only on the conscious level. Much more clearly, we hear this planetary song and see your planetary light. Cryon speaks of beacons of light for a reason. If only you could see it. These beacons that burst forth from complete human beings and shine deep into the universe. But I tell you this too. Every forest, every sea, and every lake has such a light too. If it is healthy. This glow is less purposeful, but you can still feel and see it if you are gifted. January 9. Places of power. My altar is still a mess from that small fire, and I find it hard to concentrate today. I never thought I would be so heartbroken to see it roughed up. All the pieces are fine, really. Nothing got burned. The arrangement is just a little disheveled. Still, my heart is bleeding because I cannot do my tiny little daily rituals exactly the way I want them. That's what rituals are for. That's what holy sites are for. They're not for us. At our highest levels of existence, the gods and goddesses never need to recharge their batteries. A ritual has value for you when you are tearing up at the thought of not being able to perform it. A place of power has value for you when you are tearing up because you have to stay away from it today. Of course, you should not necessarily be attached to earthly things. Of course, you should actually be able to do without. Because the most important temple exists within you. But we seem to have to make this point again and again and again, especially in your current times. Well, excuse us, but our situation is indeed rough at the moment. It's hard to stay focused. I worry about everything. We're still in lockdown. I want to deal with 1,000 things and none of it seems even remotely doable. I want to get away as fast and as far away as I can. Out of this human bond and society that has gotten us into such a big mess. My God, life as a hermit must be beautiful. Do you really think we haven't taken into account how small your steps are at the moment? I'll tell you something. Even now, when you feel like you're getting little done, you're working more than the worst workaholic in 80/50 could get done in a day, a week, or a month. Because you have communication technology. Connected computers and phones alone make you more productive than you will ever be able to grasp. You can get a lot more done in an hour of work today than any other generation before you could. And while it is true that you are running out of time for some things, always remember: speak about and thus bring about your solution as much, as loudly, and as often as you can. Protesting against a virus will do no good at all. It is really lost time that you are throwing out of the window. But if you hold an online course on folk medicine, if you get people involved in sports, in the arts, in walking or jogging, you are actively helping to make things better. Maybe all our knowledge is counterproductive. Maybe it would almost be better if we believed that the gods are angry with us and therefore sent us this plague. Then maybe we would really try to change, and we would not just want things to be as they were. It won't go back to the old times, will it? No, it won't. And that's very good news indeed.